Oh, and I hope that all you guys doing great. And here I'm again, and I've created progress steps using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is really and perfectly awesome. So you see that we have this progress steps here, and I can click on next, and you see that it nicely moved to other steps, and we can click, keep on clicking until it reaches to number 4. After it reaches to number 4, I mean the steps 4, it stops going to further, and we're gonna get the disabled next, and the previous gets active. And you see that I can decrease the steps here, so you also can navigate between all of them. I mean between the previous and the next one. So let's create it out, but before doing that, hit that subscribe button to my YouTube channel if you like tutorials like this. So I'm just gonna go and create our index.html file, and after that, inside the index.html file, I type HTML5, and we get this boilerplate. And here I'm just gonna say progress steps. So inside the body, I'm gonna create a container, and inside the container we're gonna have our progress container. So I type a progress container, and inside this container I'm gonna create the progress itself. So I can say div, and its name is progress, and I'm gonna give it an ID which is progress2. So inside this progress, I put nothing because later we gonna put it using JavaScript. So after then I'm gonna create our circles that we have here. So I just say div, and I'm gonna give it a class of circle, and after that we need to duplicate this. Before doing that, I just put a number here and duplicate this. So after then I'm gonna just change it to 2, and this one to 3, and the last one gonna be 4. So for the first one, because here if you notice, even you haven't go any further and didn't click on the next button, the first circle is selected. So here I'm just gonna give the I'm gonna give it the class of active. So and after then we're done with the progress container. We have to create our buttons. So I just type button, and also give it a class which its class name is bt, and also I give it an ID which its ID is previous. I feel too lazy to type previous. I just type proof, and it's inside its inner HTML I just pass pref. So I'm gonna duplicate this and change this inner HTML to next, and its ID gonna be next to, so just say next. And here the first one, by default I set it to disable, but later we will activate it using JavaScript. And now we have to open this app in the browser to see how is it looking, and you'll see that it's looking like this, pretty ugly. But we're gonna do magic using CSS to do so. Here in Visual Studio Code, create another style.css file. So I say a style.css, not another style.css. This is our first one. So we have to make sure that our file is, our CSS file is connected with our HTML. So in this case, I just type a link and href it to, attach it to style.css. So after that, here in style.css, the very first thing I'm going to do is to select everything and set its box sizing to border box. So we see that to the border box, using border box really made it life easier. So here I'm gonna select the body and set its display flex, and also align items to the center and justify content to center. So if you don't know about the justify just align things from the vertical, and justify content aligns items vertically, and align elements horizontally. So here if you take a look, it's looking like this, but you notice that it didn't align horizontally, I mean vertically. Is it vertically or horizontal? The way that my cursor moves, I forgot its meaning. So here we have to give it a height. So horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, vertical, horizontal. So this is horizontal, this is vertical. So here I'm gonna give it a width of 100, and you see that it gates in the center, but here we have a problem of a scroll bar. So to get rid of this, and just say overflow and set it to hide, and now you will see that we do have nothing. And also I'm gonna give it a little, add a little margins, and just say margin 0. And after that we have to select our container. Sorry, because I want to put these things at the center, so I just say container and text align to so the center. I don't know what happened to my truth. And you see that this numbers gates in the center, garden center. So the very first thing, what English. So here, what I'm gonna do is to select this progress container. So I'm just gonna copy this out from here, copy and paste it down here. So here I also set its display to flex, and also justify content, and it's gonna be a space between. So I just say a space between, and after then I'm just gonna pass its position to relative, because later we will set the position of the progress bar to absolute, because we want this progress relatively orient according to this progress container. So after that here I give it some margin from the bottom, so just say margin bottom. It's going to be 30 pixel, and we're gonna give it a little max width, so I just say max width, and it's going to be 100%, but its normal width gonna be 350 pixel. Take a look, and these numbers got oriented really well. So after that we have to create these lines between these numbers. To do so, we have to use the pseudo classes. So here I'm gonna come and put a dot, and to use a pseudo classes we use two columns, I forget its name too. So I just pass before here and column. Yes, it's column. So after that, here inside the content we're gonna pass nothing, and we're gonna give it a little background, which is a background of hash value E0, E0, and E0. And after that I'm gonna set its position to absolute. I told you that I use the position of absolute, and I told you explain the reasons too. And I'm gonna set its top to 50%, and from the left side it's gonna be at the 0 position, and transform to translate y to minus 50%. So after that here I'm gonna give it a little height, which is 4 pixel, and also give it a little width, and that's going to be 100%. And if you take a look, you'll see that it's looking like this, but these line gates in front of the text here, we wanted these lines to be after this text to faces. We have to use the z index, so I just say z index and assign it to a negative number, which is -1 here, and you notice that it goes it went behind the text. So after that here it's time to select our progress itself, so just copy it from here and paste it down here, and put a dot before that because it's a class. And here I'm going to give it a background, which is going to be a hash value, and it is 3498 dB. And after that I'm going to set its position to absolute because we want it to move thoroughly, and I'm gonna set its type to 50%. I should copy that, but I didn't. I set its left to 0 and transform translate y. I'm just gonna copy that from here till this place, paste it down here, and transform translate to y. We want this progress to be exactly behind this one. You see that it got here. So after that here, I decrease it width, for example, to 30%, and you will see that I got the 30%. Then we will do a calculation to every time we click on this next button, it just goes till a specific number, not like this. So for now, I'm just gonna set it to 0, and we want it to be behind the text. So I say z index, and it's going to be to a negative number, which is 1, and you see that it went behind the before pseudo class. So after that here, we also I'm gonna give it a little translation because we wanted to move nicely, so its translation gonna be 0.5 seconds. So nothing special. You saw that it goes behind because it just set its background to Z index, and it even goes before the this progress container. So after that here we have to select our circle. So I just say circle. Let me check if I typed circle well. Yes, I did. So after that here, I'm gonna give it a background, which is a hash value of FFF, and I'm gonna give it a color, which is also a hash value of 999, and I'm gonna give it a little border radius, and this is going to be 50%. And before doing that, I'm gonna give it a background. I'm gonna get rid of this background, but I just give this background to see what's really going on. And now we have to give it a height. For now, nothing is now visible on the web page, but without this, I'm gonna give it a little height, so it is a 30 pixel, and also I'm gonna give it a little width. So I just say width, and you'll see that it's getting like this. And you notice that the number is not exactly at the center of this devs. So to fix it, I'm gonna come here and use the flex. So I just say display to flex, and justify content to center, and also align items to center. You see that it is perfectly and exactly at the center, and we also have to give it a little border. So I just come here and give it a border, and it's going to be 3 pixels solid, and its color going to be a hash value, which is E0, E0, E0. Now if you take a look, it's looking like this, and now it's time to get rid of this background because we don't need it anymore. And there we go, it's looking like this. Like this one. So after then here we have our active states, with the first one by default set to active. To do so here, you notice that we gave it the class of active here. So I just come here and type active, and actually I have to put the dot before that because it's a class. And inside this, we're just gonna give it a border color. So just say border color, and its border color gonna be a value of hash, which is 349, and that one. And you notice that, not this one, you notice that its color change and looking really nicely. And after that, we have to style these buttons a little, because with this nice progress bar, we don't want an ugly buttons like these. So after that here, I select the button, and I gave the button class for both of our btn. I mean the class of btn for both of our buttons, so it's gonna affect both of our buttons. So what I'm gonna do is here is to create to give it a background. So say background, and I'm gonna get rid of the color. I really hate to make codes longer, and it's a hash value, which is this one. And after that, I'm gonna give it a color. So just say color, and it is FFF. And I'm gonna give it also a border. I'm gonna get rid of its border. It's going to be 0, and a little border radius, and it is 6 pixel. And after that, I'm gonna set the cursor position to the pointer, that whenever we move our cursor on, it change to a pointer. And now I'm gonna give it a little padding, because you see it's looking pretty ugly. And I say padding, and it's going to be 8 pixels from the top and bottom, and 14 pixel from the sides, and also I'm gonna give it a little margin which is 5 pixel, and a font size gonna be 14 pixel. Take a look, and it's looking nice the way these are, but I think that the padding is less, so it is 30 pixel, not 14 pixels. So yeah, it's looking exactly like these, but the difference is that this one is inactive, and in the main project this is inactive, but here it is active. So to fix it, I'm just gonna come here and select the btn dot, disable it, and or where is it? Yes, it is here. So we don't affect that, so I just say disable it. What's that? Disable it, and here we want to give the disable button a background or color of a hash value, which is E0 and this one. And after that, we want to change the cursor to not allowed. So if you move your cursor, you will see something like this red, what is called this red stop symbol. So we've done with our HTML and CSS, and I think that our project is looking exactly like this one, but the only difference is that we have not I don't know what's wrong here, but just the font family maybe. So here we have to style it and design it using JavaScript, because when we want to click on this next button to go further and click on previous button, it gets us back to the first, the lower number. To do so, we have to create our script.js file. So I just come here and say script.js, and we need to make sure that our script is connected with our HTML. So I just come here and say script, and inside it's src. I'm just gonna say src, and it's going to refer to script.js. So I'm just gonna get rid of the ribbon and increase the size for the for a script file. So the very first thing I'm going to do is here to access the elements that we have in our HTML. So the very first thing I access is the progress, and assign it to document.getElementById, and its ID is the progress. And I'm going to duplicate this 3 times, and I'm going to access the next button also, and change this one to next, and change this to previews, and also here it's going to be previews. So after that, here I'm going to create another variable, and we're going to access all the circles that we have in our HTML. So I just say circles and assign it to document.query selector query selector all, and it's gonna access all the elements with the class of circle. So now we have done with selecting elements from the HTML. After that, here I'm going to create a variable to just count the number of the current active. So I just say current. I'm going to call it current active. You can call it whatever you want, and assign it to the number 1 by default. And I'm going to assign an even listener to previews and next button. So I say next.add even listener, and it's going to listen to a click even. After that, it's going to call a callback function here, which can be both a regular or not an arrow function. So inside this, I'm just gonna increase to the number of the current active, because whenever we want to we click on this, we want to it goes further, so I just increase to the number of it. And here I'm gonna do a condition, because we don't want to it goes further even more than 4. So here I just say current active, and assign it and check if this number got bigger than the circle dot length, and circle dot length gonna return the number of circles that we have in our HTML, and if it goes further than 4 number, what I'm gonna do is to just set it to its before number. So just say current active, assign it to the circles dot length. So it's too hard to say length. It's too hard, yeah. So after that here, I'm gonna do something. We want to increase, change this color like our main project, and it goes like that, and circle this one, but I'm not gonna do it here, just right here. So I just put a function here. I say update and we're gonna later create this function. So I'm just gonna do the same for our previews button too. So just copy this out from here and paste it down here and change this next to the previews. And we're also gonna listen to a click event, but this time we are not going to increase the number of current active. We want to decrease it. And here in the condition, in our condition, what I'm gonna do is to check for if it goes smaller than 1, or we don't want it to, it goes even more, go previous even more than number 1. So replace of that, if it gets smaller to the number 1, what we want to do is to set the current active to 1, and also after that we will call the update function here. So we have not created this update function, but we're gonna do it just right now. So just put a function and set its name as update, and inside this what I'm gonna do is to loop through over all the circles. So I just say circles, and we're gonna call the for each method, and this is going to give us access to each individual circle. So just say circle, and also to indexes. So after that, here it's an arrow function. You have to put the equal sign and that one too. So after that here, what I'm gonna do is to check if the index is smaller than the current active. If it's smaller, what we want to do, this means that whenever we click on, this is going to loop through over. If it doesn't matter if you click on the next button or previous button, but if you click on here, it checks if the index that each of these circles has an index which is start from 0. If it's less than the current active, the variable that we have here. So what I'm going to do is here to add to the circles. I'm going to access the circle dot class list, and to its class list we want to add a class where that class name is active class. So here you notice that in the style.css I actually didn't create that. I gave those, so I didn't create the disable button. What I wanted to, I forget what I was doing. So in the active, we have to add the active class that we have add here. So this active class, let me see, we have this active class here which has the border color of this. I thought that I didn't add for a while. I just forget that what I was doing. So and after that here in our script.js, and just come and the next thing I'm gonna do is to write an else statement. So I just come here and say else if the number of index is less than the current number, we just want to keep adding on active states. But if it isn't, we would just normally gonna delete it. So just copy this out from here and paste it down here, and replace of adding, we're gonna use the remove method to remove this class. So after that, out of this for each, I'm gonna come here, and here what I'm gonna do is to create a variable called actives, and this is going to count the active circles that or I mean actives that we have. So here by default we have this, but using this line of codes we add others here. So if I just take a look in the browser, you could see that if I click on the next button, it's add to the number of active and goes till number 4. So I'm gonna count this. To count this, I'm just gonna assign it to document dot query selector all. So just say query selector all, and we're gonna select all the elements that has the active class. So after that, here what I'm gonna do, did I put the dot here? Yes, I did. So after that, here I'm gonna do a calculation here. So what's our calculation? This is selected, and we have 3 parts in this progress bar, and if we divide 3 parts on number 3, we're gonna get a number like 33.3333, I mean 333 after that, a decimal point. So we want to fill this div according to that number, which is 33.3, which became 33 percentage of this div, which became according something, something like, let me just write its code, and then I will explain it and you guys will understand nicely. So I access the progress here that we have accessed here. So we want to increase the width. By default, if you remember in a style.css width, we set its width where we have it here. By default, we set its width to 0%, but here we want to increase it. So I say progress.style.width, and its width gonna be a number. So here I do a calculation, and I'm gonna get the active.length, how many active classes we have. We minus it 1, and after that I will console all this log, and I will explain what I've done here. So after that, here I'm gonna select all the circles, how many circles we have. We also want to get its length and minus it 1. And first I put these parentheses around this because the calculation, it has when you do a calculation, the division goes before the subtraction and additions, and if you want to control that, you have to pass this parenthesis around this. So after that, here we get a number. I will console.log these and I will explain it. So after that, I'm gonna times it to 100 to get a percentage, and also concatenate it with percentage, else it's not going to work for us. So now I'm gonna come here and console.log it. So just say console.log, and what I'm gonna pass here is get this one, the number of active, and I'm gonna duplicate this, and we want to get the number of circles. So just copy it from here. I shouldn't do that. And at the end, I'm gonna console.log all of these stuff that we have here. So just copy all of these and paste it down here. So just say console.log, and inside this we just pass this. So now if I save it and take a look in the browser, I'm going to open up the inspect and go to console. Here I'm in a console, and now if I click on next button, see this goes further, which is the number of our active. We had already 1, but we want to divide it to 3, so we minus it 1. And here we get only 1 active state, even though we have 2, but here you see that we minus it 1. And after that, here it also counts the number of the circles. How many circles we have? We have 3 circles left. This gotten, and these 3 are lifted. So after that, we divide this number on the 3, which is the number of the active length, divided by the circles, and after that we multiplied by 100 because we want to get a percentage, else you will get a decimal point. So it is a decimal point too, but it is just going to be something like, I don't know, 0.33. I guess that it's a number like that, and we change it to percentage. And after that we've changed it to percentage, we concatenate the percentage because we want to set the width of this progress bar that we have in our HTML. Where is it? Here. We increase the width of it, and it is a percentage value. So each time that we click this, it divides this div to 3 parts, and every time we click on it, increase 1 divided by 3 parts of it. So I hope that it makes sense. So after that, here you notice in our buttons that if I click on this, this button should get enable, and when we reach at the end of it, this button should get disable like we have in our main project, like this. So to do it, I'm gonna come here, and after this I'm gonna write an if statement. So I say if, and if our current active, which is the variable that I've declared at the top here, you can see we have our current number. What I want to do with this current number, I'm gonna count if it's equal to 1. What I want to do is to set this number to this button to disabled. So it's by default even disabled, but whenever it reads it goes here but it reads to number 1, we want to set this previous to disabled. So inside here I'm just gonna say prev dot disable it, assign it to true. And now even by default it is, but I told you that if we go here and later it's when it gets active, it won't go deactive. So that's the reason that we've did here. So after that, here I'm gonna write an else if statement. So inside this else if statement, what I'm gonna do is to just copy this out from here again, and the main goal that we've used this condition, we want to, whenever we reach at the end of this, we want to this make this next button disable. So to do it, I just say current active, how many active we have. We want the active number already reached to 4. So if it's reached to the circles length, which is the number of circles that we have, which is 4 here, and if it's reached to that, we want to set the next button this visibility to disabled. So I just pass a next here. Sorry. Here I say next, and it's going to be true. So now if I refresh and click on the next, and it goes further, but notice it is not, this button not get enabled yet. We will fix it later. So it goes further, and when it's reached to number 4, it also gets disabled. So that's what we want. So after that, here we want that whenever we goes one more further, we want this button to get enabled. So to do that, I'm gonna write another else statement. If, else if, inside the else if we wrote our other condition, and I said this at the end to catch all of these. So I'm gonna just copy paste these out, and by default we set it to false. So I hope that it makes sense, but I'm gonna explain it one more time. So here we check the current number. If it's reached to 0, we want this the previous number, the previous button gets disable. And if it's reached to 4, which is the number of the circles that we've calculate with, compare with current active. If it's a 4, and we also want the next button be disabled, but if none of these conditions are right, we want both of the buttons to be active. So now if I save it and take a look in the browser, and you see that the number, the next button is enable. So now if I click on, you see that this button gets enabled, and we can keep on clicking. It is working perfectly fine. And now if I reach the number of 4, you see that this button gets disabled, and this button is still active, so I can decrease its steps too. So I hope that it really makes sense, because this part's the most complicated part of this. We're here to just calculate how this progress bar goes further, but the way I explain it, I'm sure that it makes sense. So I hope that you guys understand and enjoy this tutorial, and I will see you in the very next tutorial. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button to my YouTube channel. Take care of yourself, and bye.